10 things hormonal decline forces you to do if you want to keep gaining muscle after 40. It's impossible not to notice. When you reach 40, most things you've always done that used to bring results don't work as well anymore. Testosterone has dropped, and, even with good training and a good diet, muscles don't seem to develop like before. However, there's no shortage of cases of men who continue gaining muscle mass even after 40 or even 50. And no, I'm not talking about those using hormones. If they can do this, there must be a way, right? Besides, many studies have already proven that you can indeed develop as much muscle at 40 as at 20. It's not as easy, but if you understand what specific changes need to be made, it's undoubtedly possible to see real results again. That's why today you'll see 10 things that need to be done to continue gaining muscle mass after 40. Before we begin, please tell us through the comments your name and the city where you're watching our content from. We'd love to know. Number 1. Combat anabolic resistance. As we age, our body goes through several changes that directly affect our ability to build muscle. One of the most significant is the development of what's called anabolic resistance. Basically, our muscles become less responsive to stimuli that previously triggered muscle growth. This resistance doesn't mean you can't grow anymore, just that you need to work more intelligently. What many people don't know is that after 40, muscles require more training volume to achieve the same level of growth they easily achieved at 20. A study published in 2012 demonstrated something fascinating. Older men had a 110% increase in muscle protein synthesis when doubling the number of sets in their workouts, compared to only 50% increase in younger men with the same adjustment. This suggests that the mature male body can actually respond extraordinarily well to adequate volume. To properly execute this strategy, you need to gradually increase your total training volume, but not all at once. Add an extra set to each main exercise for a few weeks. Observe how your body responds, and then consider adding another if necessary. A common mistake is thinking that more is always better and trying to compensate for anabolic resistance with excessively long workouts. The secret is to increase volume strategically, not randomly. Number 2. Prioritize compound exercises over isolation exercises. After 40, training efficiency becomes even more crucial due to reduced recovery capacity and the limited time that many men have available. Compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, and rows recruit multiple muscle groups simultaneously, generating a more robust hormonal response and allowing you to work more muscle in less time. Studies demonstrate that multi-joint movements produce greater release of anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone compared to isolation exercises. For men over 40 with naturally reduced hormonal levels, maximizing this response through compound exercises becomes fundamental. Additionally, these movements are more functional and transferable to day-to-day activities, helping maintain quality of life. The ideal strategy is to structure your training with 70 to 80% of volume focused on compound exercises, leaving only 20 to 30% for isolation movements that work specific weak points or muscles that need extra attention. For example, in a chest workout, start with incline bench press and flat bench press before moving on to flies. In leg training, prioritize squats and leg press before isolated extensions and curls. A common mistake is dispersing energy across many isolation exercises that produce limited return, leaving little energy for the movements that really move the needle in terms of muscle gains. Number 3. Increase rest time between sets. One of the biggest mistakes I see men over 40 make is maintaining the same short rest intervals they used when they were younger. Science has clearly shown that this may be sabotaging your results. Recent studies demonstrate that resting for longer periods between sets, specifically 3 to 5 minutes, results in significantly more muscle growth than short rests of just 1 minute. This contradicts what many of us learned early in our fitness life. The beauty of this adjustment lies in its ability to allow more complete recovery between sets. When you rest adequately, you can maintain intensity and weight in subsequent sets, which means greater stimulus for muscle hypertrophy. To implement it correctly, start by adjusting your rest intervals to 3 minutes for main compound exercises like squats, bench press, and deadlifts. For isolation exercises like bicep curls or tricep extensions, 2 to 3 minutes are generally sufficient. What makes this adjustment particularly valuable for men over 40 is that it naturally compensates for the slower recovery between efforts that occurs with age. Your body simply needs more time to replenish phosphocreatine stores in muscles, the primary fuel for high-intensity efforts. Number 4. Implement strategic deload every 4 to 6 weeks. One of the most harmful mistakes men over 40 make is trying to train heavy and intensely without interruption, ignoring signs of accumulated fatigue. Recovery capacity naturally decreases with age due to reduced hormonal levels, increased inflammation, and slower cellular repair processes. Constantly pushing without allowing adequate recovery not only limits gains, but drastically increases the risk of injuries that can keep you away from training for weeks or months. The deload is a planned week of volume and intensity reduction that allows the body to recover completely while maintaining training frequency and motor patterns. During a deload week, reduce training volume by approximately 40 to 50%, maintaining the same exercises but doing fewer sets. For example, if you normally do 4 sets of each exercise, do only 2. Also, reduce intensity by 20 to 30%, using lighter loads that still allow you to feel the muscles working but without maximum stress. Maintain frequency by visiting the gym the same number of times per week to preserve the habit and movement patterns. This approach allows systems like the central nervous system, joints, tendons, and hormonal system to recover completely. Signs that you need a deload include strength stagnation or regression for 2 consecutive weeks, persistent joint pain, reduced sleep quality, diminished motivation, and chronic fatigue sensation. Number 5. Train each muscle group twice per week. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Having constant access to science-based information is what will make you progress with health long-term in the bodybuilding world. Studies consistently show that dividing the same training volume into higher frequencies can almost double muscle growth. This occurs because muscle protein synthesis, the process that builds new muscle tissue, remains elevated for approximately 24 to 36 hours after training. After that, it returns to baseline. If you train each muscle group only once per week, you're essentially wasting 5 to 6 days where you could be building more muscle. For men over 40, this strategy is even more valuable due to anabolic resistance. What makes this approach particularly effective is that it allows higher quality repetitions. When you divide weekly volume into 2 sessions, you won't be excessively fatigued in the last exercises and sets of the workout. A rested body executes movements with better technique and greater intensity. Additionally, training each muscle group twice per week allows you to better explore the so-called anabolic window, the period after training where your body is most receptive to muscle building. You'll essentially be doubling your weekly growth opportunities. To implement this strategy, consider an ABC split, training 6 days per week, or a full body workout 3 times per week. The exact format depends on your availability, but the principle remains the same. Each muscle group needs to be stimulated at least twice per week. A common mistake is thinking that more frequency necessarily means more total volume. Number 6. Monitor and optimize testosterone naturally. From age 30, testosterone levels naturally drop about 1% per year. It may not seem like much, but when you reach 40, this can mean a reduction of 10 to 15%, enough to significantly impact your muscle gains. Since testosterone is fundamental for muscle protein synthesis, the first step to deal with this reality is to know your numbers. Get blood tests to check your current testosterone levels. The range considered normal is 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. However, what many people don't know is that even being within the normal range, you may be well below your personal ideal level, especially if you're near the lower limit. To optimize your testosterone naturally, there are several scientifically proven strategies. First, prioritize good fats in your diet. Avocado, extra virgin olive oil, egg yolk, and fatty fish are excellent sources. Studies show that diets with less than 20% fats can reduce testosterone levels. Quality sleep is perhaps the most underestimated factor for hormonal production. Research from the University of Chicago demonstrated that men who slept only 5 hours per night for 1 week showed a 15% drop in testosterone levels. You'll know you're doing it right when you notice improvements in energy, libido, strength, and muscle recovery. Testosterone affects several aspects of your life, not just muscle gains. A common mistake is seeking quick solutions like miracle supplements, promising to drastically increase testosterone. Number 7. Include mobility training. Joint stiffness naturally increases with age, and after 40, this can become a significant limiter, not only for your performance, but also for your muscle gains. What many people don't realize is that reduced range of motion means diminished hypertrophic stimulus. When you can't execute a movement in its full range, you're essentially leaving gains on the table. For example, a partial squat stimulates significantly less muscle growth than a well-executed deep squat. To combat this progressive stiffness, incorporating end-range isometrics is an extremely effective strategy. These are essentially active stretches under load, which not only improve your mobility, but also strengthen muscles in their most vulnerable positions. The beauty of this type of training lies in its ability to produce relatively quick results. In just 2 to 3 weeks of consistent work, many practitioners notice significant improvements in range of motion and, consequently, in the quality of their main workouts. To execute it correctly, set aside 10 to 15 minutes before each training session for specific mobility work, focusing on the joints that will be most demanded that day. For example, before training legs, prioritize hip and ankle mobility. A particularly effective exercise is the end-range isometric squat. Lower to the lowest possible position of a squat and hold for 30 to 60 seconds. This not only improves your mobility, but also strengthens muscles exactly in the position where they're usually weakest. A common mistake is treating mobility as something separate from strength training. Number 8. Adequate supplementation. When we talk about supplementation for men over 40 seeking hypertrophy, we need to focus on options that are truly scientifically proven. There are 3 main supplements that deserve your attention. Creatine is the most studied and proven supplement in the fitness market. The recommendation is to consume 3 to 5 grams every day, regardless of whether you're training or not. What it does is increase phosphocreatine stores in muscles, allowing more energy for intense muscle contractions, which translates into more strength, more repetitions, and consequently, greater stimulus for muscle growth. Studies show average gains of 5 to 15% in strength and 2.5 to 5.5 pounds of lean mass with consistent use. Vitamin D is often neglected, but is crucial, especially after 40. About 60% of men in this age range have significant deficiency. The standard recommendation is 5,000 international units daily, but ideally, you should test your levels and adjust dosage. Vitamin D acts like a hormone in the body and is directly related to testosterone production and bone health. Magnesium, in a dosage of 200 to 400 milligrams daily, has demonstrated efficacy in reducing cortisol levels and improving sleep quality, 2 crucial factors for those seeking hypertrophy after 40. Number 9. Increase protein intake. After 40, the body develops what scientists call anabolic resistance, a reduction in the efficiency with which it processes and uses proteins for muscle building. This is one of the main reasons why many men struggle to maintain or increase muscle mass at this stage of life. Research shows that while at 20, approximately 20 grams of protein per meal were sufficient to maximize muscle protein synthesis, after 40, almost double this amount may be necessary. Studies indicate that the ideal target should be between 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal to optimize muscle building. What makes this adjustment particularly important is that it directly compensates for one of the main physiological changes that occur with aging. You're essentially overcoming anabolic resistance with a greater protein stimulus. To implement this strategy correctly, distribute your protein intake across 4 to 5 meals throughout the day, each containing 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein sources, such as lean meats, eggs, dairy, and protein supplements. A common mistake is focusing only on post-workout protein and neglecting other meals of the day. To optimize muscle building, each meal should contain enough protein to overcome the anabolic threshold. You'll know you're consuming enough protein when you start noticing better recovery between workouts and maintenance or progressive strength gains. Remember that this increase in protein should be accompanied by adequate hydration. Number 10. Train with a high degree of effort. One of the biggest obstacles to muscle growth after 40 is training with insufficient intensity. Studies consistently show that people generally underestimate by up to 30% how many more repetitions they could still do, which means many are stopping their sets far from the stimulus needed to trigger significant muscle growth. What many people don't understand is that as you age, you need to compensate for the natural decline in anabolic hormones with greater training effort. You simply can't get away with low-intensity workouts anymore like you perhaps could at 20. To be clear, this doesn't mean going to muscular failure on all sets of all exercises. That would be counterproductive and would excessively increase recovery time. Instead, it means not abandoning a set just because it started getting uncomfortable or because you reached a pre-established number of repetitions. The beauty of this approach lies in its ability to generate maximum hypertrophic stimulus without necessarily increasing total training volume. A common mistake is confusing effort with exhaustion. Training with a high degree of effort doesn't mean leaving the gym completely exhausted every day. It means applying appropriate intensity to individual sets while managing total workout fatigue. If you like this and you're one of those men with difficulty developing the upper chest, we've left a video appearing right now on screen showing the 6 reasons why 99% of men over 40 can't develop this chest area. Don't miss it. Thanks for watching until here, and may God bless you, my friend.